Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming today. I'm super excited to be part of this product school community event. Today, I would like to discuss one of the topics I'm super passionate about, which is how to grow your products as a growth product manager. So regardless whether you are working for a big tech company or working for a small startup, there are lots of common growth thinking and mindsets that you can actually share and apply across different type of products. And today I'm going to share some of the learnings that I have over the past few years. Let me share my screen here. As mentioned, I'm Grace. I'm going to actually quickly introduce myself before we jump into the topic. I'm a PM at LinkedIn, and I focus on consumer growth as well as subscription growth. In the earliest parts of my career at LinkedIn, I focus on help our LinkedIn members build their network, help them connect with people they know and things they care about. Now I'm part of premium business. I focus on growing our online subscription business. I manage the full funnel of subscription business from acquisition to retention. And then previously I was a PM at Vivo, and then my career actually starts as management consultant at Accenture. I'm a lifetime learner and I love practicing yoga. I've been practicing yoga for a decade. I also practice meditation on a daily basis as well. And I love traveling and reading. One of the favorite books I have is by Ray Dalio, Principles. So we're going to talk about how to grow your products. There are 4 key elements when it comes to growing your products. First of all, we need to understand what's your growth metrics and what's a North Star. And then secondly, we can actually define strategy to achieve the North Star. And then thirdly, there are lots of common tactics that shared across different type of products. And we can actually quickly take a look and then learn from these tactics and see how you can actually apply these tactics to a product as well. And then lastly, we're going to actually talk about how we can build the loops, the growth loops, so that you can have a more sustainable growth system. You combine all the loops together to build your system. So what is in scope today? We're going to focus more on growth from a product approach rather than a marketing approach. And then we will also focus more on acquisition, retention, and we will now focus on monetization. But if you're interested in subscription or monetization, and we can actually find another time to talk about this. All right, first of all, let's actually define what is growth. Growth product management is slightly different from core product management. Core product management is really about building core values to your customers. And the success of your customers is really the success of your products. So growth is more actually around, growth is actually different. Growth is actually more around how can we actually enable the business to be more successful. So the success of the business is the success of growth. And growth focus more around how can we actually take these core values and to get the largest audience to experience the core value as quickly as possible and as often as possible. And when it comes to figure out how to grow your products, the first thing that we need to do is actually to figure out what's a North Star metric. And the growth team's North Star metric should really be the same as the company North Star metric. And when it comes to define the North Star metric, there are 3 key elements here. First of all, it has to actually align with the success of your business. And secondly, it has to actually measure the values that provided to the users. And then lastly, be able to operationalize a metric. We need to make sure the metric can be summable and can be moved and tracked. Let's actually take Spotify, for example. So the success of Spotify means people continue to use Spotify as a listening and streaming platform, and people like to discover and find interesting audio contents on Spotify. And they would like to, because they actually spend lots of time on Spotify and they find the values of this audio content, and they would like to actually continue to stay and retain and subscribe and renew their subscription on Spotify. So the way that Spotify defines North Star is time spent listening. And then let's actually take Airbnb for another example. Airbnb is actually a two-side marketplace. On one side, Airbnb actually has the host, and then on the other side, Airbnb has the guest, right? So the supply side, what hosts actually care about is being able to make money, having their places to be booked, so that they also actually want to optimize for their occupancy. And then on the guest side, as a traveler, what they want to do is be able to actually find a very comfortable place to stay when they travel. So it's very important for both set of markets to be able to book nights on Airbnb. And at the same time, for Airbnb business, the way they make money is actually take a cut from each transactions. And this is actually the Airbnb North Star metric, number of nights booked. It's actually well aligned with the two sides of the values they provide to the users, supply side as well as the demand side. And then at the same time, it's also well aligned with the way they monetize the business. And the more nights that people book, the more transactions they can potentially make money off. And then let's talk about Facebook as well. So Facebook's mission is help people actually build community and give them the power to build better community and bring the world closer together. And how can we actually measure that? And the way to measure it is probably to figure out whether people continue coming back to Facebook and to build communities. And then Facebook actually defined the North Star metric, which is monthly active users, and which is also kind of aligned with their monetization business as well. And more users coming back here on a monthly basis, then they probably can serve more ads to these users. And then they can drive both monetization as well as the engagement side. All right, besides the North Star metric, we should also talk about what other operational metrics that potentially can be more actionable for the growth team to drive towards. And these operational metrics ideally are highly correlated to the top line metrics or even have a causal impacts to the top line metrics. So let's actually take Spotify for example again. Spotify top line metrics, time spent listening. If you actually further break it down, this metric, so monthly active listeners times time spent per listener is equals to the top line metric, right? And then you can actually further break down monthly active listeners into like new listeners, churn listeners, and resurrected listeners. And then on the time spent side, what is actually correlated with time spent is songs and episodes are played. So as a growth PM, driving towards new listeners, driving towards churn listeners, and songs and episodes played are more actionable, right? So that's why we need to actually figure out other operational metrics that potentially could be more actionable and also have a correlation and causation impacts to the top line metrics. All right, let's talk about defining growth strategy. Growth strategy actually could be different at different stage of the product life cycle. In the early stage of your product life cycle, you might actually focus on penetration. You want to actually acquire as many users as possible and get the market size, get a large market size as much as possible, right? But at one point, you probably will you penetrate your market to a certain extent, and there's not much room for you to grow and penetrate anymore. Then now at this point, we need to actually focus more on improving the frequencies that users come back to the platform. And then you probably move towards more into retention. And even for companies focusing on acquisition, there could be different strategies with acquisition when the company is at different stage. Let's actually take Slack, for example. In the early stage, Slack actually focused more on acquiring users through their engineering core audiences, right? And engineers are actually the core audience and core customers for Slack in the beginning. And then later on, because engineers are on the platform, PMs and designers who are working closely with engineers also want to be on Slack. And then, and then because PMs and designers are on Slack, and other parts of the department. And for example, finance and marketing, or maybe accounting, they also want to actually be on Slack because there are lots of colleagues already on Slack. So why don't we just be all on Slack? And there are lots of communications going on in the company. Can we just get whole company be on Slack? So Slack actually moved from stage 1, which is virality within R&D department, to virality within the company. And then once actually having a lot of people actually on Slack, let's say as a salesperson, if your client is actually working on Slack, you probably also want to communicate with your clients, and you probably also want to sign up on Slack as well, right? So, and then at a later stage, that Slack focus on the variety among companies and use that as a way to grow more and more audiences and grow their customer space. And then in the next section, we're going to talk about how to apply different type of growth tactics to your products. So let's actually start with acquisition. There are actually 3 common tactics for acquisition. First of all is SEO and the guest page. Secondly is organic viral loops. Last is incentivized viral loops. So for SEO, any core value of your products can actually optimize for SEO. Let's actually take LinkedIn, for example. When I search the Uber CEO, Dara, right? And you can actually see Wikipedia pop up, Twitter pop up, LinkedIn also pop up here. And LinkedIn is actually ranked as a 3rd place on the search results. And Twitter actually does a much better job here, which is the 2nd one. And so the core value that LinkedIn has, which is actually the resume and then the online resume that users actually put on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn actually use that core value and optimize it for SEO. When you search for a person, you always think about maybe stuff from Google or even stuff from LinkedIn. And then same as Amazon, right? Amazon has a lot of product catalogs on their website. And when we are looking for shopping, let's say reusable household gloves, and you search on Google, and then the second result that show up is Amazon. Amazon actually use their product catalog as a way to drive traffic through Google, and they optimize the SEO for that. And then another typical example is guest page. So guest landing experience means the guest page actually means as a user who is not logging or sign up yet, when I come to your products and come to your page, and what kind of product experience I have. So let's actually take Pinterest for example here. So Pinterest, when you come to Pinterest, if you're actually logging on desktop, you will actually see this big screen that get your next home decor ideas, and they will ask you actually to scroll to see more. Once you actually scroll and see more, you will actually see Pinterest ask you to sign up and to see your ideas. And this is actually the way that Pinterest drive logging and drive more signups. Same as Twitter as well. So I just searched Dara on Google, and Twitter actually pop up as a second search result. And then when I try to actually follow Dara on Twitter, I need to actually log in or sign up in order to follow him. So when you actually design the guest page, it's important to balance between the values that you provide to your users, and then where's the friction points that you want to provide and to drive the signups. We should actually consider hiding the core values that behind the wall. For example, in Twitter's case, if you want to follow, which is a core value, then you have to actually sign up and log in. All right, next one, which is organic viral loop. And this is very typical in social products as well as like communications and collaborations products. And basically, what does organic mean? Basically, like users are not like incentivized, they're just intrinsically motivated to invite other people. Very, very typical example, which is address book import. If you actually use Snap, LinkedIn, or Clubhouse, And as a user, when you come to this platform, you probably don't have anyone that you can connect or you can talk to. And then you are organically or intrinsically motivated to add your connections and through your contacts books on your phone and to find someone that you can talk to and to use these products. And then another typical organic viral loop is through communication and collaboration products, as I mentioned. And let's actually take Zoom, for example, right? When you actually start a Zoom meeting, you send out a link to other people, and other people actually take that link and they will actually join Zoom. If they don't have a Zoom account, they can also actually use Zoom. At the same time, actually Zoom just actually acquire new user, right? For Dropbox as well. So you can, when you actually save file in Dropbox, if you actually want to share with other people, you can actually invite other people to use the file. And this sharing mechanism already is a viral loop and already actually help Dropbox to acquire more users. There are also incentive viral loop as well. So let's actually take Uber Eats, for example. This is actually the referral program on Uber Eats. When you actually give other people $20 off, you also get $10 off. And for Robinhood as well, when you actually invite a friend to use Robinhood, they will actually get a free stock, and you will also get a free stock. So when it comes to incentivized viral loop, the incentives has to be actually meaningful. Have to actually be meaningful on both sender as well as on the receiver side. It's not just only on the sender side; it also has to be on the receiver side as well. And then, secondly, the core values that you provide the incentives that you provide has to actually align with the core value of your products. And in this case, Uber Eats, since it's a transactional platform, and the core value they provide is actually the dollars off, right? And then on Robinhood, the core value is about stock. So they provide free stock to people. This is actually also called referral. Referral is more often and common to see on transactional products. All right, let's actually talk about retention. I'm going to actually borrow core concepts here from Reforge. Retention is really the output. If we actually do activation, engagement, and resurrection right, then we will actually be able to get very good retention. So we will actually start with activation. Very common tactic on activation is onboarding flow. Let's actually take Pinterest, for example. When you actually come to Pinterest, when you actually sign up, Pinterest will ask you about your location and languages to find local content. And once they know let's say you're from Japan, they probably will be able to populate a lot of content in Japanese for you. And then they also ask you and to understand what your interests are so that they can actually personalize your feed. And once you actually choose the type of content you're interested in, and Pinterest will actually have a note here to tell you, hey, why don't you ping it? If you ping it, and you probably will be able to realize, oh, what Pinterest is really about. Pinterest is really about actually help you to collect things that you're interested in. And once you have been experiencing the products and you find so many interesting contents on Pinterest, and you start searching for your ideas, and now you actually build up a habit, which is actually find inspirations on Pinterest. When it comes to actually thinking about getting ideas and get inspirations, you always actually come to Pinterest. And this is the habits that you actually start building. So yeah, so Pinterest actually, first of all, they ask users to conduct some certain actions to set up the core value prop. And then they help users to experience the core value prop for the first time by providing these notes. And then lastly, they help users establish the habits around the core value prop. So when it comes to design activation, think through like what habits do you want users to build? Like what core values do you want users to experience? And then what should users to do to experience the core values after they sign up? All right, another very common tactic or engagement, which is notifications. When you actually come to a lot of social products, you probably will see a lot of notifications on social products. And notifications are actually just a type of leverage for you to reach your users. And the important thing for notification is still around how can you actually build the end-to-end experience that is important for your user. We can actually find some example here. So for Instagram, the important thing for users are, if I think for people I care about, my friends, my close friends, or maybe my followings, when they actually post things, I would like to be notified. So Pinterest actually will send you notification for that. And then if someone actually likes your post, mentions you or comments on your post, and they will also send you notifications, right? And then as LinkedIn, what do LinkedIn members care about? LinkedIn members care about, oh, I'm looking for a job. Are there any jobs out there meets my needs? So I would like to actually get alerts. I also want to actually follow industry news as well. So I want to actually be notified when there are interesting news that relevant to me. So LinkedIn actually focus more around finding what's the typical daily life that professional usually need, right? So like reading news, or maybe getting job alerts, and LinkedIn creates an end-to-end notification experience around those needs for users. And Twitter also has a very similar one as well. Twitter actually builds engagement loop through like new activities from people you follow. So for notifications, notification can have different type of channels as well. There are email channel, push channel, and in-app channel. And it's very important to figure out like what channel that you should use. A lot of times we don't want to send too aggressive push notifications either. And you also want to make sure the channel, for example, in-app or maybe email experience that you provide are actually sending out with the right frequency. You probably don't want to actually send email like on a daily basis or maybe on an hourly basis, right? Like if there are too many emails, people will be annoyed. So there are lots of optimization that you can do with the channels as well as the frequencies and even delivery time. Moving on, another common tactic is membership and rewards program as well. And membership program requires you provide extra values to users. So let's actually take Uber Eats and then Amazon Prime, for example. So Uber Eats is a monthly subscription membership. If you actually pay a certain amount, which is around $10 a month, you will get unlimited free delivery and 5% off for any transactions with restaurants. And for Amazon you pay like maybe $120 for Amazon Prime. And all these membership programs are very compelling for turning your infrequent users to be frequent users and even like power users as well. If you actually provide the values compelling enough, users sign up, they may actually use your product more and more often. Like let's actually just maybe take Amazon, for example. Before this membership program, you're probably thinking about online shopping are pretty expensive, and you only maybe buy things from online maybe once a month. But because of this membership program, you end up actually buying things from Amazon Prime, even maybe on a weekly basis and on an even daily basis, right? So the membership program really a good way for you to turn all the infrequent users to be frequent users. And then there's another typical retention technique, which is rewards program. Rewards program is slightly different from membership. Rewards program is more around providing certain incentives for people and help them accumulate their points, their rewards. And then when they thinking about like choosing the next service provider, they will come to your platform versus going to the other platform. So you see rewards program applied pretty often in the airline business as well as like hotel business. And in this case, Uber also has Uber Rewards as well. It's probably a great way for them to compete with other players in the market. So we talk about retention. We break down retention in terms of activation, engagement, and then resurrection. Now we focus on, we just talked about activation engagement. Now we are talking about resurrection. So for resurrection, a very common tactic is win-back promos. And we see these win-back promos happen more often on the transactional platform. And for example, Lyft and Uber Eats, if you haven't actually used the product for a while, they will actually send you this email, the email to give you a promo, and as a way to drive those infrequent or maybe dormant users to come back to the platform. Once you actually get users to come back to the platform, it's also important to figure out the new experience for the dormant users when they come back, and we call it reactivation. And I actually picked a very good example here from a Chinese app called Rad. When you come back to Rad, after a while, you haven't been using the products, Rad will actually ask users again about their latest interests, because their interests might change. In the past, you might be interested in maybe skincare and makeup. Now you might be more interested in reading or traveling. So they will, when you actually come back, they ask you to select your interests again so that they can personalize your feed. And same as Funville. So Funville is a game developed by Zynga. So they have this reactivation experience. When users come back, users can actually reset and clean up their farms, so they can actually start from a clean farm and building their new game experience. So when it comes to design resurrection, it's very important to figure out like why users are leaving. And when you actually reach your users, being able to provide the values that are quite aligned with the reasons that they are leaving. And then reach out to the users at the right time with the right channel. And you can use emails or push or different kind of communication channels. And then lastly, when you come back to your platform, you need to actually design a reactivation experience for these users. All right, we're going to moving on to the next section quickly, which is build various growth loops for your growth system. So I want to introduce this concept loops, which is actually created by Reforge. In the past, when people talk about growth, people talk about funnels, and people think about growth is very siloed. And there's one team focused on acquisition, another team focused on activation, and the other team focused on retention. And each team just focus on the metric they want to optimize for. And this actually creates a very incoherent experience. And at the same time, it's very functional silo as well. So what the new concepts around loops. The loops is thinking about the output becomes the input, and input is also can generate output. And with this like compounding effects, and you will actually generate more and more growth. So I'm going to actually talk about one example later. But overall, for growth loops, we are thinking about like who are your new users, what kind of actions can they take, and what kind of output will they actually have? Can this actually output generate more new users for your products? So I'm going to take Instagram, for example, to illustrate what loop is really about. So there are lots of influencers and friends and families on Instagram, right? They probably will actually create content on Instagram. They create stories and they create posts and even short videos, reel on Instagram. And then Instagram actually sends you these notifications to notify you if you're actually the followers of these influencers and friends and families. And then when followers actually comment and mention and then reshare the content, and the followers, the Instagram actually will notify the posters, right? So influencers, friends, and families, they will also be notified, and it actually drive them to come back to Instagram platform. So you see that when users actually take the action, it becomes the outputs for the other users to come back to the platform here. And then if you're actually building a lot of such growth loops for each part of your growth, let's say acquisition and engagement, then you actually end up having a very strong growth system. And then the key is when you're actually thinking about building products for growth, and you really have to think about how you can actually build all the loops and then combine them together, become a more powerful growth ecosystem, a growth system. It also becomes a more sustainable growth system as well. All right, so today we talk about 4 elements around how to grow your products. First of all, define your growth metrics. Secondly, define growth strategy, and then apply all the growth tactics we just mentioned. And then lastly, let's actually put all the growth tactics together into a loop and then build for your growth system. All right, I'm Grace. Very happy to be here and share a quick learning with you. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me at grace.yayun.wang@gmail.com. Thank you.